I recently bought this Gibson Les Paul, and like any decent warm-blooded guitar player, I immediately started trying to modify it to make it sound better. So to be honest, I didn't change much on the guitar, and I really don't plan on doing anything else to it. This guitar is a 2011 Les Paul Traditional, so obviously it's been used. And it's been used quite a bit. It was actually owned by the guitar player for Ariana Grande and Kelsea Ballerini, so it's been all over the world, and that's kind of how I knew it was going to be a good purchase. And of course, being used, it came with whatever the previous owner had either left on it or done to it. In this case, I believe the guitar originally came with Grover style tuners. The previous owner had installed some, I guess, vintage Grover tuners or relic them himself. I prefer actually the 57 style with the tulip buttons, and so I installed these. And I made a video about it, and you can watch it by clicking on the link in the upper part of the screen. So besides the tuners and what we're going to talk about in this video, the only other thing I've done to this guitar is add the Bigsby that you see here, which I will discuss in a future video. Okay, on to the topic at hand. And by the way, I'm in a totally different space than I'm usually in. This is sort of my wife's space, and I'm here because my wife and kids are out of the house and it's totally quiet. So what we're going to talk about is Gibson Les Paul bridge post. Now honestly, the only reason that I upgraded the post on this guitar is to get it closer to vintage. You know, the golden age, pun intended, of the Les Paul, like the 57, 58, 59, and 60 Les Pauls. Those guitars came with an ABR1 bridge, and the posts for that bridge were screwed directly into the body of the guitar. Now starting in 1974, I believe, they converted over to a Nashville style bridge post system where they pressed bushings into the body of the guitar, and then they took posts and screwed those posts into those bushings. So instead of one piece, you now had two pieces, and the post was not directly contacting the wood of the guitar. So starting in 2017, I believe, and I could be wrong here, but they introduced sort of a hybrid between those two style of bridges. And they call this, I guess, the USA/ABR1 post, where you have an ABR1 bridge mounted on like a Nashville style post system. And I guess I should say that with the Nashville post, they also introduced a new Nashville style bridge. So all that said, there are basically three types of bridges you could have on a Les Paul. You could have the ABR1 original, you could have a Nashville style, or you could have a hybrid USA/ABR1. And that can be a little confusing, as you'll see later on in the video. This guitar originally came with a Nashville style bridge, and the previous owner had installed an ABR1 bridge onto the Nashville post, which was a little odd, and it took me a while to figure out what he did, but eventually I got there. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I installed the conversion post that I got from Faber, or Faber CORSA as they're sold in the USA, and then we're going to do a sound comparison between the original Nashville post and the Faber post. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay, so here I'm obviously just taking off the ABR1 bridge that came with the guitar, and then I'm unscrewing the Nashville posts that are threaded into the bushings that are again pressed into the body of the guitar. And then as you can see, here are the Nashville posts. Pretty straightforward stuff. So the actual Faber part number that I got was a 3216, which is a USA/ABR1 Plus, which was kind of what I needed, but kind of not, and hopefully that'll all make sense later on. So correct part number or not, Faber includes a neat little tool in the package which you can use to thread into the Nashville bushing. What it does is it contacts the wood, and then it forces the bushing up out of the body of the guitar. It's really simple, really easy to use, and effective. And here you can see it work, and you can see what it looks like when it comes out. At this point, I used an inexpensive caliper to gauge the depth of the hole. You want to make sure you have enough depth to accept the conversion bushings, which, as you'll see eventually, I didn't exactly get right the first time. And then of course more of the same with the tool on the other bushing. So by this point I was ready to install the Faber conversion bushing. Now they also give you a little cylinder that you can use to install on top of it so that when you're hammering it down you don't damage it. And I will say it's a little bit scary to be beating on top of your Les Paul, but as long as you're not negligent, there's nothing to worry about. So you can probably tell here that the bushing on the treble side of the strings did not fully insert. It's sticking out a little too far. Now of course I couldn't hammer it any further into the guitar body, it just wasn't going to go. So I had to come up with a creative solution. So I found this rubber washer in my garage, and I installed it down on top of the post, and then I took the wheel that came with the post and threaded it down. And since I didn't want to mar up the wheel, I did the only thing I could think of, and I wrapped it in some tape is actually painter's tape so that I could take some pliers and crank down on the wheel and then force the bushing out of the body. And as you watch, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, obviously, I was a little bit hesitant to do this. I wasn't even sure if it was going to work, and I was afraid that the rubber washer might somehow damage the paint on the top of the body. But in the end, it worked out pretty well, and there was no damage done. It just took a little bit of time, patience, and a lot of elbow grease. So at this point, I had to deepen the bushing hole on the treble side, and the only way I knew how to do this was with the drill bit. I can't remember what size I used, but I was careful not to take off any material on the top of the body and just focus on that bottom part of the hole. I did it a few times until I was fairly confident that the hole was deep enough, and then of course I reinstalled the bushing. And as you can see here, it's way better, maybe not perfect, but a lot better, and I could actually deal with this. And then the only thing left to do was thread on the wheels and then install the bridge back onto the post. Now, as you'll be able to tell, there was a lot of play or slop in the bridge. There wasn't near that much play when it had the original Nashville bushings installed. So I was very concerned about this. I kept trying to convince myself that I was right, but in the end, there was just way too much play. And I knew eventually I was going to have to remedy the situation. But I wanted to keep it consistent and use the same bridge with the two different style posts. So that's what you're going to hear in the following clips. The ABR1 bridge that came with the guitar and the original Nashville post, and then that same bridge with the Faber conversion bushings.